Now we're going to look at yet another version of how to tell the same basic sequence of events. Ayer hacía sol. Yesterday it was sunny. Mientras caminaba a mi clase. As I walked to my class or was walking to class. Pero no me sentía bien. But I didn't feel great or was not feeling great. Porque extrañaba a mi mejor amiga de la secundaria. Because I missed or was missing my best friend from high school. La llamé. I called her. Hablamos, we talked, y me sentí mejor, and I felt better. In this version of my telling of events, I started out using the imperfect to describe the weather, what I was doing, which was walking to my class, and my emotional state. Then I finished the story with a sequence of actions in the preterite. You may have heard a rule about descriptions using imperfect, or you may have been told that stories start out with background information being an imperfect. As we will see in a minute, neither is really true. What explains my use of preterite and imperfect in this story, yet again, is all about whether I viewed events as bounded or unbounded. It just so happens that with all the first 4 events in this story, I wanted to focus on the middle stages, which I visualize here as fuzzy borders, zooming in, fading out. I was visualizing zooming into these moments, not viewing them from a distance as something over and done with. So my viewpoint was unbounded, and that is why I used the imperfect. But I could have started the story differently. Here's another alternate version. Ayer caminé a mi clase. Yesterday I walked to class. Porque hacía sol. Because it was sunny. Mientras caminaba, while I walked, or was walking, pensaba en mi mejor amiga de la secundaria. I thought of, or was thinking of, my best friend from high school. La extrañaba mucho. I missed or was missing her a lot. La llamé por teléfono. I called her on the telephone. Hablamos por unos minutos. We talked for a few minutes. Y cuando llegué a clase, or when I got to or arrived at class, ya me sentía mejor. I was already feeling better. You'll notice this story didn't start with the imperfect at all. My first event, I walked to class, was told in the preterite because I didn't want to zoom into that moment just yet. I viewed it from a distance as a concrete action, so I framed it and moved along to the next thing. That's the bounded viewpoint expressed in the preterite. But to talk about it being sunny, there I visualized the middle stages of when it was sunny, and that moment when it was sunny. I was walking to class and thinking of and missing my friend. So for all those events, I was viewing them as unbounded events, zooming into those moments for just a minute, and that's why I used the imperfect for all of them. You may have heard a rule about weather using imperfect, but again, that's not always true. Sometimes I do view weather events, like being sunny, as unbounded, because I want to view them as a background for a moment that I'm zooming into in the middle stages of, like hacía sol in this story. But I could tell the story with a different beginning. For instance, ayer hizo sol. Yesterday it was sunny. Por eso caminé a mi clase. That's why I walked to class. Here, I decided to simply express that yesterday it was sunny, adopting a bounded viewpoint of the weather. Hizo sol feels like a simple statement of a factual event viewed from afar as completed in the past. I decided not to visualize myself zooming into and reliving the moment, the middle stages of the sunny day yesterday, so I didn't use the imperfect and say hacía sol, even though I'm talking about weather and I'm starting a story. Again, it's all about whether my viewpoint is bounded or unbounded. Here's another variation of how to start the same story. Ayer, cuando caminaba a mi clase, pensé en mi mejor amiga de la secundaria. Pensé is preterite and expresses a bounded viewpoint. I'm viewing having the thought about my friend as a concrete action that occurred, and I want to move on to say something else next. If I use the imperfect pensaba instead, that would be like zooming me back into the moment of when I was walking and thinking about her. Now, when I say concrete action, I do not mean to suggest that the difference is about whether an action actually occurred just one time or not. Actions that occur once and actions that occur repeatedly can both be expressed in either the preterite or the imperfect. Again, it depends on the boundedness that I want to express as my viewpoint. Let's see a couple of examples of that. If I want to say, yesterday I was missing my best friend from high school, ayer extrañaba mucho a mi mejor amiga de la secundaria, and that in high school we talked or used to talk every day, I would probably say, en la secundaria hablábamos todos los días. I'd use the imperfect because it sounds like I want to zoom into those days in the past, viewing them as unbounded, meaning I'm thinking back and sort of reliving that habitual occurrence, viewing the middle parts of that time period of my life. And that's how imperfect expresses habitual actions, viewed as unbounded. But I could also say, en la secundaria hablamos todos los días, and that's the preterite. With the preterite, I'm not zooming into the middle stages of that time period. Instead, I'm viewing the high school days, when we talked every day, from afar. I'm bounding that period of repeated events as something I want to view like one concrete unit of time that is now over and done with. So my preterite, hablamos todos los días, makes sense, for instance, if I want to make a contrast between that period, which is over, and some different time. For example, I might say, en la secundaria hablamos todos los días, pero ahora en la universidad no nos vemos nunca. Back in high school, we spoke every day, but now at the university, we never see each other. So again, the difference is about viewpoint. Preterite expresses a bounded viewpoint and imperfect expresses an unbounded viewpoint of the same events. That's true for events that happened just once and for events that happened more than once.